What's going on, guys? Today we're doing another versus battle. More specifically, we are doing Sabo versus Marco. Now, both of these characters are very dear to me. I love them both so much, and I also think that both of them are very underrated in the community, at least as far as I've seen in terms of combat power. I'm not sure why this is, considering the things that we've seen them do, especially Marco. I think he is super underrated, like on levels I can't even begin to explain. I've even made a video about it, but I think that these are actually a pretty good matchup. So let's start with Sabo, all the things we know about him and the things that we have seen him do. So something important to remember about this guy is that he is the number 2 of the Revolutionary Army, meaning that Dragon supposedly is the only person higher up in the army over him. So now the real question with that is, does that mean that he is the second strongest in the Revolutionary Army? Because if that's the case, then that is very scary for Marco. Not just would that mean that Dragon is the only person in the army stronger than Sabo, which, I mean, he better be. Dragon's a complete animal as far as we know. But more importantly, that would mean that Sabo is stronger than Kuma, who, I even made a video on this and it had a lot of agreement. Kuma is very likely the strongest of the warlords besides Mihawk. It was even pretty agreeable with most people that he is probably decently stronger than Dofi, and believe me, that is really hard for someone like me to say, because I love Dofi and I wish he was the strongest of the warlords. But as far as we've seen, Kuma's Devil Fruit is completely broken. It's just insane, as well as he can back it up very well. Like, he seems to utilize it and just have very good physical abilities. So if we are to believe that Sabo is actually stronger than this guy, then that says a lot about him and would mean that he is very, very powerful. He competed in the Coliseum event in the finals where he faced off against Diamante, Burgess, not really Bartolome or Rebecca since they were all kind of working together, but so mainly Burgess and Diamante, who Diamante's not so strong, but Burgess is probably pretty strong, and Sabo just completely wiped the floor with everyone in that arena. There was clearly no point in his mind that he thought, oh, maybe I'm not gonna get this, like I'm gonna have to try really hard. No, he just was so easily took that thing right off the fish's back, and Diamante was like, okay, that didn't go according to plan, like that was not supposed to happen. So I would definitely say he outclasses someone at Burgess's level. Also, keeping in mind, this is before he actually even ate the fruit, which makes him considerably less powerful than he is now, especially since he was able to eat this thing and then just take absolute full control of it. He pretty much used it on levels that we saw Ace. I don't really see how Ace used it any better. I would say Sabo was at least as good with it, if not better. You have to consider that when he was facing off against Fujitora, he was flying using the fruit, and we never saw Ace do anything like this. Maybe a little bit of just like a boost, but he wasn't just straight up flying. But that does bring me to another big point, is his battle against Fujitora, where he now was a user of the fire. So it's really hard to say who would win because they seemed pretty much evenly matched the entire time. But Sabo even said, like, why are you holding back? I know that a Navy Admiral is way stronger than this. Although at the same time, it's not like Sabo was ever like gasping for breath or anything even close to that, so that begs the question, was he really trying as hard as he could? Not to mention, there is also the fact that it was not really a 1v1, at least the entire time. He was facing off against a lot of other soldiers, and that idiot-ass Vice Admiral with the stupid mask that Sabo crushed because he's a complete animal. But me and my friend have debated about this a lot, put in a lot of our thoughts, and we've pretty much come to the conclusion that Sabo is most likely about Fujitora level. So that's pretty much all we know about Sabo as of now. Moving on to Marco is where things get interesting because there's not so many examples like how we get with Sabo with just the straight up battle against Fujitora, the Coliseum battle. It was more like quick exchanges in the War of the Best that we have to try and take as much as we can from speculating along the way. So the first time we see this guy in action is when Kizaru launches a ridiculous barrage of like light bombs at Whitebeard, and Whitebeard just stands there because he knows what's about to happen. Marco flies out of nowhere and just absorbs this entire attack, seemingly taking absolutely zero damage. And then, as if that wasn't ridiculous enough, he immediately charges in at Kizaru while he's launching even more light balls at him, and he quickly shifts his lower body out of his Phoenix form, and for the first time in the series we've seen, he lands a kick on a Logia user. Kizaru does quite easily block this, and they just kind of sit there for a second and exchange a few words, but then Marco just gets a little pissed and just launches Kizaru, just overpowers him completely. Kizaru, the Admiral, who some people claim is the strongest character in the entire series, while Marco didn't even have any momentum or anything of the sort, just got launched by a kick, like, I mean, what, 500, 600 feet away into a wall that fucking explodes from the impact. Now, we do end up seeing that Kizaru wasn't hurt in the slightest by this, but that's not really the point. I mean, you have to consider that when Dofi got Kong gunned for the first time and he got launched through multiple buildings, probably a few miles at least, I mean, just an incredible distance, so much force was put into that. He only took a little bit damage at the very end when his head ran into a building. So there's like, if you're just getting launched into a wall a little ways away, if you're like that kind of level, your hockey should protect you quite a bit. So I'm not really surprised that he didn't take damage. I think it's more impressive that Marco was able to completely overpower him without any momentum and send him flying like that. Pretty much what I'm saying is I think it's safe to say that Marco has overwhelming physical strength. We've also seen his Devil Fruit, which is a mythical Zoan. It is the Phoenix Fruit, and it's hard to say exactly what it can do, but what we do know is that it gives him the power of flight, clearly at very high speeds, of course, and he is able to some degree take damage with seemingly no damage being taken. Whether it's just stuff going through him because he's made of flames or his body takes damage but then immediately generates, I don't really know. I don't completely understand it. But one way or another, it's overpowered and his ability to take damage is off the charts, especially if he has strong hockey, which I'm sure he does. A lot of other stuff happens throughout the War of the Best. He meets up with both of the other admirals, but it's kind of awkward exchanges where it's not really so much of a fight, so I don't really want to bring those up into this. If you really want to see what more I had to say about Marco, then you can check out my video, Is Marco Admiral Level? I made a video talking all about him, how strong he actually is, pretty much his entire journey through the War of the Best, and why I think he is as strong as he is. But so let's jump into the 1v1 battle between these two. So something very interesting that I mentioned earlier is it seems that Sabo now has the power of flight with the Fire Fruit. It's hard to say if he's really just kind of jumping in the air and then falling slowly, but it seemed like he just charged directly in a straight line towards Fujitora while flying. I'm not necessarily so far off the ground, but it doesn't really make a difference. Like, couldn't he theoretically get higher off the ground as long as he's already off of it? So although in previous versus battles I gave people like Dofi a huge advantage for being able to fly, and I would think that I would also do the same for Marco, it seems like that might not be the case, since I think Sabo can also fly, probably to a similar extent considering the nature of his fruit. In fact, if you're asking me, I would think that Sabo would actually possibly be better at flying, since Marco would have to fly more in like a bird kind of form, I would imagine, since he has wings, where Sabo flies just by launching massive amounts of fire out of different directions of his body, and because he is a human being, he can move his legs and hands around in pretty much any direction, so he could theoretically just move in different places of the air, kind of like how Dofi does, just any direction he wants. The best example I could really give is comparing him to Bakugo from My Hero, since he always would just like launch fire blasts and that would propel his body in different directions. I would think Sabo would do something very similar, except it would be more of a stream so he could just keep going. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that there is a good chance that this would be an all-out battle in the sky, and it would be fucking amazing to watch. I would guess that anytime they get into close combat, Sabo would just unleash massive amounts of fire all around his body, trying to hopefully burn Marco. And the question really is that would fire actually work on Marco, since his wings and pretty much his entire body are made out of fire? I would say probably, especially since it's been shown in the past that you can like infuse your devil fruits, even if you're a Logia, with Haki. So I would venture to guess that Sabo's flames would actually be able to inflict damage on Marco if they landed if it was like a fireball or a stream kind of attack. And I'm guessing when they got into close combat, that's all Sabo would be doing, just launching fireballs, shooting streams out of his hands and feet, whatever, and Marco would probably just be focusing mainly on dodging and trying to land actual kicks like he was on Kizaru. So now, we have not actually really seen how well Sabo's physical abilities are, like how strong and fast he is. We've seen him use a lot of his fruit and not so much actual hand-to-hand combat, besides with his pipe. So I think what it really would come down to is what we are probably going to see in the future about Sabo's physical abilities. The way I see it, as far as we can tell, Marco's physical abilities are off the charts based on what he was able to do to Kizaru. So pretty much I'm thinking anytime he was able to actually land a punch or kick on Sabo, it would do pretty nice amounts of damage. Sabo's no weakling, so he would definitely be able to use Armament Haki to reduce the damage significantly, but it'd probably be heavier than almost anything he's ever dealt with. And on the other hand, Marco is just going to be taking non-stop damage, not necessarily the same power that he would be dealing in his few hits that he gets in, but he would just be taking consistent damage as far as I can imagine. So in a lot of ways, this would be an endurance battle, okay? So could Marco outlast Sabo's sustained damage, and could Sabo block Marco's really concentrated attacks enough to outlast him? It's hard to say, but if I had to, and I could definitely take this back in the future, we really just don't know enough about either of these characters yet. Hopefully we'll learn a lot more about Marco and Wano, and maybe even Sabo as well, possibly the Reverie, we'll see. But if I had to pick one to win the battle, it would probably be Marco. I think he does have a slight advantage. I think he probably has significantly more experience. I know he was older than Ace, I'm not sure exactly by how much, but it's probably a decent amount. He's been in the New World for a lot longer. I'm not sure how much this would really affect Sabo, but he also does have amnesia. Well, I mean, he doesn't anymore, of course, but he might have forgotten some tricks that he learned when he was younger, and they kind of just faded out of his experience. I also think that Marco would have the Haki advantage. He'd probably have stronger Haki than Sabo, and it seems like in the One Piece world more recently that Haki is the biggest determining factor in a battle, especially since there is the big theory going around that Shanks' possibly entire crew has no Devil Fruits. They're all just master Haki users on levels that have never been seen before. And this would make sense considering they just all seem like normal humans, no like giant monsters or anything. They just must have like incredible wills pretty much. Now, although I do think at the time we are seeing Marco would probably win in a battle against Sabo, I think Sabo is going to end up being one of the strongest characters in the entire series, especially after he has even more time to develop his Devil Fruit. Maybe he'll even realize some secret abilities that it has that could completely stop anyone. Like, we don't really know when it comes to Devil Fruits. But as you guys know, One Piece takes a very long time to get through this kind of shit. We're probably not going to be seeing Sabo until after Wano, or maybe even just before if the Reverie happens before Wano, but I doubt it. So we'll just have to see. We'll have to play the waiting game, and maybe I'll have an updated video of this in the future. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you think that I might be completely wrong on this. Maybe Sabo's way stronger than Marco. Maybe it's impossible to even tell. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to also let me know future ideas for versus battles that you would like to see just like this. I'm pretty much doing them every Wednesday for now. I don't know how long that'll go, but that's what I've been doing. And also ideas for future videos in general, not related to versus battles, like different anime videos, which I do on Fridays, and Sundays where I dedicate it to just a regular One Piece video. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, feel free to hit the notification button right next to the subscribe. It's the little bell so you get notified anytime one of my videos comes out. I upload 3 a week, so it's definitely a useful channel to have notifications on for. On Friday, we have coming up an Attack on Titan video. I think I'm going to be focusing mainly on Reiner, his backstory, his character, all that good stuff, since he is, in fact, my favorite character. I know that I said I was going to probably do a My Hero video on Friday, but the thing is, I just read the entire manga for Attack on Titan, and I'm beyond hyped about it, like, on levels that I can't even explain. I'll probably get into that at the beginning of my Attack on Titan video. And I'm going to now be starting the My Hero video, and I don't really want to come up with any stupid idea like I did last time, where a lot of the stuff I say is probably wrong just because I haven't been caught up or anything, and everyone is, and they can't say stuff because they don't want to spoil me, which I really appreciate, by the way, everyone. Thank you so much for not spoiling me. But I'm probably going to try and finish the entire thing in this next week, since I did Attack on Titan pretty fast. And then next week, hopefully if I'm done by then, I should be able to pump out a My Hero video. So look forward to that, especially if that's why you're here, because I know a lot of my new subscribers are here because of that My Hero video. So that's pretty much it. You got some shit to look forward to, and I will talk to you guys on Friday.